Well, so we have to do the reviews, and thanks for joining us. Please make sure that for the remaining periods of the show, up to 9, that we wrap up for the AM show. Please get interactive. Facebook JoyNews on TV. You can also be watching us on My Joy Online TV on YouTube. And I have Novan here. You know, yesterday with Odilia, they did the review, and while we were in Parliament. Good morning to you, Novan. How are you?
Good morning to you,
Roland. And logically, we have the papers dominated by excerpts of the budget.
Yeah, it's all about the budget today. Right. I mean, almost every paper has something on their front page or within the paper discussing an aspect of the budget. And I think that one of the things people have said is, yes, the minority predicted some more taxes to be introduced, but you recall the Joy Business, we did a report that we had picked up information there wasn't going to be introduction of new taxes, but the government was rather going to look at new ways, innovative ways of broadening the tax nest to ensure that we can rake in more revenues to undertake the kind of projects that they want to embark on.
All right. So we'll talk about it, but let's just sift through the headlines, and then we'll choose a topic or two for discussion.
Yeah, so I want to begin with the Daily Graphic this morning, and on the front page of the Daily Graphic, it says 2019 Budget Statement and Economic Policy, Government unveils ambitious plan to grow economy by 7.6%, that is in 2019. But it says, bad minority says it's empty, uninspiring, and hopeless. That is what you have on the front page of the Daily Graphic. And then we move on to the Finder, and the Finder newspaper says 2019 budget deficit 4.2%, GDP 7.6%, and then also 8.5 billion capital expenditure, interest payment estimated at 18.6 billion cedis. Still on the front page of the Finder this morning, you have RTI bill, how the police dealt with media coalition, and then performance of economy in 2018 impressive. Finance Minister has said banking sector cleanup raises debt stock by 8.3%, and then more than 1 billion for propelling industrialization. That's on the front page of the Finder.
Talking about the Finder, we'll be joined by the managing news editor of the Finder, Elvis Dalcom. Was it the grips of the police? No, not in the grips. Was talking to the police.
Maybe he was picked up by the police. I mean, and it took the intervention of JoyNews to really,
could you yank him?
Yes, to get him out of that place, and we need to put that on record.
Well, potentially. Yesterday, I was reading his post about what really transpired, but we'll be having him not only because of that, but just to take a look at the content of the budget.
Okay, so the Daily Statesman this morning says 2.5 billion infrastructure boost to spur growth and create jobs, and special prosecutor finally gets 180 million cedis to fight corruption. You know, that's the Statesman. And then the Publisher this morning says it has a picture of Prince Kofi Amoaben. Of course, we know him, UT Defend Bank. You have Dufour, that is a former finance minister, former governor of Bank of Ghana, who was also the owner of that is Unibank. His picture is also here. And then Dr. Mensa Otabil, you have their picture there. And the story or the headline is couched this way: collapsed banks cost government 9.9 billion. And then one interesting statement that came out when the finance minister was presenting the budget. He says, Ghana hard, but then you have the 3 dots right there. Government to embark on massive road projects. That is what you get as far as the Publisher is concerned this morning. We'll move from that to the Dispatch, and the Dispatch this morning on its front page reads, an MPP internal memo exposed. And it says, Ofosu Ampofo as NDC chairman will make 2020 difficult for MPP. And then Ken Oforiatta admits there are hardships in Ghana. But of course, he did say that there's some hope in this particular budget. That's why they call it Impuntu. Impuntu means development budget.
In local parlance.
Yes, in local parlance, I mean. And then population details in Greater Accra, Central and Ashanti regions. That is what you have on the front page of the Daily Dispatch today. We'll move to the Daily Guide. And the Daily Guide also says government unveils 73.4 billion for roads, railways, free SHS and industries. Fake doctor busted at Kessiman. And then Amidu grabs 180 million to fight corruption. Let's quickly do the last two papers. Ghanaian Times has on its front page the finance minister with his bag. And this time, the way he came into the house was quite interesting. He used the back door. I mean, that's how he came in.
He was sneaking.
Yeah, I mean, I actually met him and the majority leader, and then he said, "How you doing?" I said, "Are you going in?" He said, "Yeah, I'm going in." Okay, so on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, it says, "Agenda for Growth 2019 budget focuses on massive infrastructure development and government to spend 73.4 billion next year." And there are some few key pointers that has been put there. Weekend today, NDC decides. Tomorrow, the NDC will go to Congress or conference, whichever way they want to call it, to decide on who are those who will be leading the parties going into the next elections, or for the next 4 years, in terms of chairman, general secretary, organizer, and all that. So the Today has that on its front page.
All right. We thank you for all that. So we have to do the discussion start by Elvis Dakun has joined us, not because he was called in by the police. It was not an arrest, was it? Good morning to you, Elvis. Where you come from originally will be part of the OT region.
No.
Okay. It's okay. Let's not go there. So good morning to you.
Good morning.
And we saw your narration with Kojo Yankson, so at least you're off it now. But the thing is, we want the advocacy to continue. That's the whole point. So
it will continue. It will continue.
Yeah. But what will be your picking points from the budget? Let's start with you, Elvis. Potentially, some of the areas that we can take a look at. They've all dominated the headlines this morning. Since he's with the finder,
I'm actually holding this paper. I mean, and he's in charge. He decides what goes in there.
For me, very good budget, very impressive. All the things that are there are good. We could have done more, but the issue is you can only spend what you have. If you want to spend beyond what you have, what it means that you have to go and borrow. And for me, that is the issue as a nation we need to focus on. Because if you look at capital expenditure of 8.5 billion, by interest that we are going to pay on our debt is 18.6 billion. That is where the problem is. Because capital expenditure is what is supposed to oil the economy for us to feel money flowing around because things are moving. So if we are spending 8.5 billion, which is quite higher than what we spent last year, but we are spending 18.5 billion just to pay interest on our loans. What it means is that whilst you are struggling to get revenue, a lot of the money is not going to just go to pay for the interest on your loans. And if you compare 18.6 billion, it may be far higher than even 4 or 5 key ministries, their budget. 4 or 5 key ministries put their budget together. The interest of our loans alone are more than how much we are going to spend on those key sectors of the economy. And that should be the worry of every Ghanaian. So I'm so happy that the minister talked about oiling industrialization. That is the way to go.
And we're potentially we have some 2.5 billion just targeted at our sector, and hopefully we should be.
And that is good news, because when we do the industrialization, it is key, because when we begin to add value to what we produce, that's the only way we can make more money. And that's the only way we can reduce the unemployment on sustainable basis. That's the only way we can reduce our dependence on imports. So an industrialization regime is very critical. And I believe that with this budget and what the minister has said, it's an indication that government is willing and ready to do everything possible that we have at least light industrial production, value addition in there, especially in the agri-value chain, where we know that we are an agrarian economy where we depend so much on agriculture. About 50% of our population are into it. So if we can add value to the things that we produce, especially with planting for food and jobs, that is increasing production. If we continue to rely on the raw materials alone, it won't be enough. So I'm happy that we are seeing something concrete, and we are told that 76 factories, I think one factory, should reach very appreciable levels next year, and that is very impressive, and I think we should do that more.
Okay, so I actually want to look at the tax issues. Of course, I mean, it's one of the areas that many were talking about. I mean, with Joy Business talking to a lot of industry players and all that, everybody raised an issue with regards to the taxes in this country. So for the government to take a second look at the few taxes they introduce in the mid-year budget review, and
you mean the thresholds?
The thresholds, because, you know, especially when it comes to pay as you earn, the PAYE. I mean, those, you remember that they moved it to 10,000, 35%. And so there was a lot of people talking about, no, I mean, we couldn't do this, a lot of backlash on that. For them to say, okay, we've now moved it to, you know, from that 10,000 to 20,000, but next time not even on 35%, but 30%, it makes a lot of sense. And then also their quest to root out those people within the GRA who do a lot of, let me use a very simple word, connections. I mean, we know, and we've been told severally, that if the GRA operational team, sometimes they got to your office and then you owe them, let's say so much, they could say, you know what, let's settle this. Why don't you pay this amount? Let's say you owe 10,000. They say you can't pay 10,000. Okay, pay 3,000 to government, give me 2,000, and the 5,000, let's forget about it. So we'll write it off. These are allegations that, you know, have over the period been said. But quite recently, 3 of their own at the port were dealt with by the commissioner.
They were reined in.
Yeah, by the commissioner. And then he did indicate that they're going to come very hard on their own members or, you know, staff who are engaged in alleged whatever. So to see this NLA going into NLA, tax defaulters, broadening the tax net, that is good news for us.
But Elvis, I know we're told that the tax identification number, the TIN, is going to be potentially one of the key ways by which for the next financial year we want to rein in people, make sure that we get them as they are. But broadly, we know that when you travel to the more developed countries, there's a basic platform on which there's every data, whether bio, etc., by every individual in that country, even if you are a visitor, by which they can track you, they can exact taxes from you, they can know perhaps what you've done in the past or over the last couple of days or months, etc. I mean, just to reach people so that they could be taxed. I am thinking, if we're saying people should have 10, but on the side, we're supposed to make sure that we have the National Identification Authority do its own collation of data of the ordinary citizen and those who are already living here, then it looks like we're duplicating efforts, I think.
That's the problem in this country. I always say policy harmonization. If one area is doing something, how have we considered all other sectors of the country in that policy? And to me, I always say that if we were harmonizing policy, a lot of the biometric registrations in Ghana were needless if we had done a credible electronic register of all Ghanaians.
Because here we have SNIT, we have NHIS, that's everybody's collecting data.
Collecting data. Meanwhile, data also is critical in terms of protection and privacy issues. So even collecting the data, we should be minded about the privacy issues surrounding it. So if we want to collect electronic data, we should be careful and decide that this particular should be the only one that should collect data that once you key in, every information about the individual pops up. For instance, if you go to a place like the US, wherever you go, the first thing they will ask you is your social security number. Once they have access to that number and they key into their system, every information about you as the individual.
So that is what they use.
That is what they use. So it's like your identity is your social security number. Once they have access to it and they key it into it, it's something that is easy for them.
Does it mean that, for example, in the US, when you have the social security number, that's what you use in working? That's what you use application for driver's license?
So many things that you need a social security number to be able to access those. So once you give it to them and they put it in their system, every information about you, the individual, is there. And that's what the NIA is trying to. That's why they're asking for all kinds of identification and so much information. But unfortunately, we couldn't do the NIA as it should have been done because this program started under President Kufuor. If we had done it properly, by now it would have been done, but we were not able to do it well. So every institution ended up collecting electronic data. Even if you compile even the cost alone that various institutions have invested in collecting data, it's huge. When that money could have gone to just NIA to do this job, for us to have that credible electronic register of Ghanaians. So this thing, I think GRA may not have been doing it if we had the credible electronic register of Ghanaians, but because it did not exist, GRA is looking for a way of identifying everybody, so that if you are doing something that requires that you pay the taxes, they bring you in. So I think that is the situation. So maybe after NIA is done, they may, because there's plan to harmonize all the electronic data under NIA and then give access to all institutions to be able to use it.
But we know the level of education of the normal Ghanaian. Of course, it's not an excuse. Everybody needs to have a TIN. Yeah. But at the same time, we want to do the identification registration. Now, potentially, even if you want to access your money on your mobile money account, you need a TIN, so to speak. So the market woman in my community in Ashaiman, for example, will need it, and will have to know the usage, etc. Aren't we perhaps, in a bid to make sure everybody gets onto the platform or expand the tax base, aren't we rather crowding out people? People may not be using the formal platforms by which they need to ensure that they transact business with money. I mean, that's potentially, that's the fear I'm having. Because instead of somebody, because, you know, I am thinking, we find it hard trying to go through a lot of processes and bureaucracies to get services. So the normal consumer in Ghana tends to find the easier way. If we make it cumbersome, it becomes, I feel, a way by which people will be deterred. I mean that's just my view.
Roland, let me say that this thing didn't start yesterday. It's actually in force some way, somehow. Today, if you need to open a bank account, if you don't have a TIN number, you will not be allowed to open the account. You need to go get the registration. And they don't ask a lot of questions. You just need an ID card, I think, and then about 3-4 questions, that your name, your date of birth, and then that's it. 3 questions or 4. Then you need to input that. You will say yes and no. It may look like you're crowding out, but it will get to a point that you cannot transact any business if you don't have it. Because gradually, even if you had 100 million cedis on you as of today, and the process is ongoing, you would spend. And then if that money gets finished and you need to continue, because banks have notified their customers that you need to come and update your records with your TIN number. And one of the challenges I have seen with it is the GRA's ability to make the process more smooth and easy for people. I should be able to either go online or do some very simple steps to get the registration. It shouldn't take me more than a day for you to generate a simple TIN number for me. And so these are the things that we probably have to encourage the GRA to be able to do. Just as you were saying that if in the US they are using the Social Security number, yes, we're here in this country when Social Security also did biometric registration. They also did it. And so you just need that. Maybe Ghana wants to go by the TIN in order for us to just open up.
Is that what we're supposed to? No, they were told the Trump card. The Trump card is the registration that is ongoing by the NIA. Yes. Because on it, you're going to have your crime records. If let's say you know the police, everybody's
over 14 data protocols.
Yes, but
even if you apply for a passport online, they don't need to say come and take fingerprints or picture anymore.
If we had this platform, would we need a thing?
If we had this platform, we may not necessarily need a thing, because if we have made it that because you register for NIA, you have a unique identification number. So the GRA can use that number to know who you are. But because this one was not done on time, and they also thinking that they need database for data tax planning, so they need information. But where I have problem with the GRA thing is when we have the database of people who are working in Ghana with SNIT. So couldn't GRA have rather decided that, okay, once the person is registered with SNIT, that means the person is working. So let's rather first of all go for entire data of SNIT and code it. And then if we have that and later realize that some people are not in the system, we could have made SNIT number even SNIT number could have been like your unique identity number in Ghana for everybody to have, whether you are working or not, because you are a potential worker, whether you are working or not. Okay. So you could have said that every Ghanaian should have a SNIT number. Yeah. And that, so it is a planning issue. When we realize that we need to identify people and know who we are, we should have settled on one protocol and say either SNIT number or the national ID number, because it's the number that identifies. It's like you are the number and the number is you.
So would the thing do the trick for government in expanding the tax base, so to speak, in terms of widening the net?
Well, it will do, because once everybody is mandated to have it, what they want to do now is, in the past, you pay your taxes, the accountant pay your taxes, the accountant goes to file your tax on your behalf. The new regime is saying that whilst your accountant will fill part of the tax declaration form, you, the individual yourself, you also go to SNIT office to go and fill the tax declaration form. What they are looking for is you may be earning revenue from something else other than where you were working, so that you declare all your sources of revenue, so that if there is the need for Ghana to get some additional money from the other things you do, maybe you do consultancy aside your normal employment.
But that's formal. What if you are selling other markets?
Yeah, that's why they are doing the informal sector as well. That's why I say every Ghanaian must have it. Right. And that will go a long way to also formalize the informal sector. Is it right now we want to say we want to formalize the informal sector, but where is the data? But if now we have the data of every Ghanaian and their TIN number, then we now know that, okay, out of all these Ghanaians, what did they feel? Okay, 1 million people said they are in self-employment. 2 million say they are into agriculture. 3 million say they are into trading. So then now you can have that data, and then you begin to find out, okay, if you are into agriculture, what are you doing in agriculture that brings in some money? Should you pay something to the state on that? If you are into self-employment, what do you do? The things you do, the money you make, what part of it do you pay to the state for some of taxes? So I think that getting the data is key. Data is everything when it comes to planning. Yeah. So either we get to GRA or we get to NIA, it is the credible electronic database that matters.
And Roland, I think that when we're able to do this, then you and I will begin to, claim the rebates and all those things that we need to get from the reliefs as well that we need to get from the GRA. Because if you file your tax returns and you do your declaration, you have parents you look after, you have kids you look after, you have a wife, you are probably in school, and so those kind of reliefs are available. But most of us don't go for it, and so they tend to declare all that money to government. They are supposed to set aside some amount of money
and pay you back.
And pay you back at the end of the year. I mean, those in the US, I mean, check when it comes to the
so we're all entitled to it.
We are all entitled to it. And they are in the books.
It's that we are not educated on it, because those who know.
Oh, serious?
Actually, if you are paying school fees of maybe your family members, your nieces, you can find all that and GRA to give you a rebate that you are doing all this to help the economy. So you are entitled to this amount of taxes you are paying back to you. So that is already there at GRA. But the information not being available to the people, not much education has been done. So people are not accessing the facility. So once you don't go for it, it remains government money, it goes to government coffers. Because they are also a way of encouraging you, the citizens, to know that it is good to pay tax and there are benefits of paying your taxes. So it's a good thing.
Okay, but you have any other thing you want to talk about?
Well, quite interesting. There's a story in one of the papers that has to do with the Supreme Court to rule on Regions referendum on November 28. And this story has to do with 3 of our citizens who went to the court challenging the fact that, look, you know what, you cannot restrict the referendum and the registration, especially the registration for the 3 new regions that will be created to the areas, the voting to just the referendum only in those areas. And so 3 of our citizens have gone to court. The court have set November 28 to rule on this particular matter. With the registration bit, they dismiss it, but on the referendum, November 28, they will take a decision, because don't forget that the Attorney General, the Electoral Commission, all of them were sued as far as this case is concerned.
Yeah, but it's become controversial, especially from that part of the Volta region, because of the comments by the Bogbom affair of the Asogli states and a number of concerning.
The issue is about legalities, and these are the first time we are creating regions anyway. So there's precedent. So I said there's no need to worry ourselves. Let the Supreme Court decide. Whatever the Supreme Court decides is law. and Ghana will follow it. So I don't think that this brouhaha and everything is necessary. Once some people have gone to the Supreme Court, the declaration comes and we know our way forward. What I want to touch on is the banking sector cleanup, as the finance minister has said. That alone has increased our debt stock by 8.3%.
Yeah, I know you're very passionate about that.
Banking sector cleanup. Now we are going to next year, and we are talking about government looking for another money to go and bail out savings and loans sector companies and
no, it's only one that they mentioned.
Well, the Bank of Ghana.
So would they do for
government
all the other ones, allied savings and all that?
World Bank and massive
World Bank $150 million
for the savings and loans
and MFIs.
Yes, they are going to, because they have also actually spent people their money anyhow. I think that this country, we need a massive education on financial matters where people can put their money and where they cannot put their money. Because if you look at what we have lost, because people have gone to put their money in places that they cannot access. In fact, if government has not done this intervention, over 1.2 million Ghanaians will wake up one morning and they'll be told that their bank has declared bankruptcy, their money is gone. 1.2 million Ghanaians. And we are talking about over 11 billion Ghana cedis. My brother, the 11 billion Ghana cedis is bigger than the 8.5 billion that the state has set aside for entire capital expenditure for 2019. It should tell you the magnitude of what has happened in the financial sector. We must do everything possible to make that this never happens again, and Ghanaians must know that it's your money. Just don't go and deposit it just anywhere. You stand the risk of losing it.
Okay, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't have been here if the Bank of Ghana was supervising. Right?
Exactly. I'm just coming to the point to say that, listen, I think that, yes, Ghanaians must know where to put their money, but the Bank of Ghana, in their job or the processes of issuing licenses and monitoring, which is very key, they ought to set up, because if they had gone ahead and done their job the way they had to, I don't think that we will find ourselves where we are. I mean, they've also been negligent as far as this is concerned, and I think that if we have to penalize people, and you ask me, I think that the cleanup also should be done at that place. Yes, they've told us they've done some kind of work as far as, you know, changes with departments, and we want to see those that needs to be also prosecuted from their side as well, not only going after directors and owners of these institutions. But when it comes to the savings and loans side, we know that the government with the World Bank has been able to earmark over $150 million, I guess, to help in saving that sector. As to whether it's supposed to be a grant or a loan, I don't have the fine details, but I know that is what has happened. I know
$50 million.
$150 million to help, you know. Oh, but that's in dollars. Bring it to cities, and you know it's quite.
That's not only enough for the mess that has been caused in that sector.
Yes. Because we're talking billions.
Yes.
And approximately, if you take a look at it, almost within the regions of some 2.5 billion.
And you see,
dollars.
Why I said so that we need to be very careful is because if you even go to institutions that call themselves fund managers under SEC, a lot of things are happening there as well. A lot of things are happening in fund management companies under SEC. And that one is also another pending issue that is coming. So
we haven't even looked at insurance, whether our money is safe there.
The whole financial system, and you see, a country can never do anything without a strong financial system. So what is happening in this area, as I said, 11 billion or 9-point-something billion, the finance minister has said, is more than the entire money we want to use for capital development next year. That should tell you the money.
We're here because the Bank of Ghana failed in supervising. And then we're also here because on the counterparts, the shareholders of these companies, and potentially put management, but mainly the shareholders and their boards and all their directors have gone beyond the mandate and then the rules by which they need to work. So they are diversifying people's monies into other potential businesses, which is flouting regulations in the first place. But they are lacking there because nobody's checking them. That's at the end of...
that is the point. So
that's the whole bottom line.
Look at DKM, as we speak, who has been fully prosecuted under DKM. But we are using our taxpayers' money to go and pay 80% of the money that was
why should we have done that? Was that a prudent decision by government?
Of course, because you licensed the institution before I put my money there. So if you don't pay me, I will sue you. That you, the government, says this is a credible institution and that I want to put my money there. It's based on your approval that it's an institution that can work. If it was not licensed, government will not intervene because that one, you want to put your money in an unlicensed regime. So since DKM, we have not seen anybody successfully being prosecuted in that case. Capital Bank and UT Bank, 1 year is gone. It's just recently we heard that civil action has been taken against them. Civil action means if they have any assets anywhere, you want to recover it to pay the debt. What if you don't find enough assets to recover the debt?
Yeah.
The rest goes to who?
All right. Our time is up, but we have to look at the online. You want to make a point or two?
No, I was just talking about, I raised the question about, do we have, qualified and very diligent investment bankers in this country? Investment analysts, because these people
gone to school.
Yes, because these people
if I look
could have
at their CV, we have Yale, we have Harvard, we have University of Ghana Business School, we have those that went to China, Japan, they're all there.
Then they have failed that, because if these people helped in advising these boards and managers as to where they should invest, people won't take money and go and lock it up in
That's the whole point.
the real estate, because you know real estate doesn't sell very fast.
It's a long-term
you understand? So you won't take people's money.
To go invest in
you won't get a bank. You won't get a bank. Open it today, and tomorrow you are thinking of opening more branches across. You have to take your time when you start business. These are the things that we have.
And that's why we have to look at a call by SIC, for instance. That look, insurance money is long term. So why don't you allow?
But they have to be supervised.
Yes,
that's the whole problem.
Why don't you allow insurance companies to go into banking?
Yeah.
Because they have a pool of fund that is there for a longer time, so they can go into long-term investment. But for normal banking sector, you can't take my money that will mature in 1 year and go invest it in real estate that will take 50 years to pay.
But when you go outside,
it doesn't make sense.
When you go outside,
Prudential, you ask the mother company of Prudential. It's a huge insurance company, but they have a huge bank because the insurance money doesn't come back to you. Yes.
Okay.
They are mother company.
But that's the system outside. When you go outside Ghana, in the US, in the UK, it's the banks.
That's why we're developing. That's why we are developing countries.
Insurance companies actually own the banks.
Let's go to myjoyonline.com. Quickly, let me just sift through before we wrap up the segment. 2019 budget. Listen to us often. Minority mocks version of 35% income, revision of 35% income tax policy. Let me read this again. 2019 budget. Listen to us often. Minority mocks revision of the 35% income tax policy. Well, we all know what happened. The private sector jobs hit 208,620 in 2018, and we're told that by the finance minister, this figure is coming from SNICS. Those that have been added onto the database of SNICS. So, 2019 budget, Century Bond will end hand-to-mouth existence of Oriata. That's the whole point. I said some time ago when I heard this, that we need some bipartisan approach to how we develop our country, because the NPP is not going to be in power forever. So we don't want anybody coming back some other time, maybe another party, and then we get a reversal of development per what we have to use the money for.
Well, that's what happens to us all the time.
No, but we need to get bipartisan. If we know we're going for $50 billion, we need to have some bipartisan agreement, consensus on this. That look, potentially, this is the plan, this is what we're going to use this for. And even if you win election the next time, don't come and disrupt the agenda of Ghana.
That's why you have independent members of parliament.
Right?
Not partisan members.
Amidu, to get 180 million Ghana cedis to fight corruption. So we don't want him complaining from next year. Mobile money, communication or banking service. Just under the recent past John Mahama administration, there was a huge turf war between, it's an opinion, so you got to read about it. And we also have government to launch rearing for food and jobs program, livestock we're told, to check imports. The thing is that we have not put any cap, no tariff. There's no tariff regime, right?
No, because you see, the point is...
We can't do that just within the trade laws we have globally.
But you see, you also have to just see what you have to do. There's measures that needs to be put in place. in Ghana.
If you can't produce,
if you can't
and you
produce,
put restrictions, how do the people get what they need?
I understand. I'm saying that at the same time, whilst we will be, because I mean, Portuguese, so you can.
The question is, are you doing it? Can you feed the market if you stop imports? That's what we call import substitution policy. That's why I said that one district, one factory is key to most of our problems.
Yeah.
If we do it and do it well, the city will be stable. So many things will be done.
Obviously, you should be the trade minister. You have too many ideas. Video. Yaosiki became born again because of motorway potholes. I'm a testimony of living daily because I applied the motorway and just last week I nearly had an accident.
Yeah.
So that's a danger road.
Chris Waddle says that. He says, look, Yaosiki became born again not because he encountered Christ alone, but because he had an accident potentially as he was dodging a pothole on the motorway. And so while he was dead, he got resurrected. I mean, so to speak. Government to provide seed money for National Cathedral. This one is a very thorny issue when I was looking at the subject, because I know that there'd been other communication in the past or in recent past about government not putting anything apart from the land and the compensation thereof for those who potentially will be evicted of those land. But now we're told that government is also not only pulling the resources but adding some initial capital for the project in itself.
It's a national project, maybe. So you have to.
Well, boy, 2019 budget. Listen to us often. So we have all the stories there, majoonline.com. Are we going BBC? Are we going BBC? Okay, so David, we have to take a break. But Nova Nakwahifo, thank you very much. And Elvis Dakum, you're the managing boss, editor for The Finder. RTI, how the police dealt with media coalition.
Yeah, you should read it. So it's a nice piece.
Yeah, no, we had him on set. But you're fine now. Where are you taking the advocacy next?
Oh, advocacy will always be surrounded. We are around Parliament and the MPs because the duty is now on them to do their work. So it will always be around Parliament.
Do you think before they adjourn for the youth or something could be done?
If you have to judge them by what has happened so far since they resumed, then the law will not be passed. So that is why
maybe it will be after January.
We should consistently remind them that they must do something about it before. The law must be passed before December. Okay. Before they rise for Christmas, it must be passed. So we
Free
want them
Elvis Daku now. Ghanaian journalists deserve better. Were you captured? Were you arrested? What was it? What was there a charge?
Well, the officer said he has arrested me. Actually, he detained me at the counter back for over 30 minutes. It took the intervention of the commander of the station to say this can't constitute an arrest, so he revoked.
Did they give some Coca-Cola to chill off?
At the police station.
Oh, why not? They are human beings. Well, so that made Elvis Dakun joining us, managing editor for The Finder, and Northern Aquahayford with our business team. Look, we have great people around, great journalists. Who says that we're not competent? But let's move on. We have more competent things to talk about. We told you that we'll bring you the latest because from tomorrow we're going to have the women's AFCON right here in our country. And all the venues we're going to tell you. What we want you to do is to make sure that you buy the ticket. If it's for free also, get to the stadiums, watch the women's matches. You know the maidens, they thrashed Uruguay. They were the host, or they are the host of that edition of the World Cup that's taking place. They thrashed them 5-0. So we have great potential. I used to play good socks ball when I was a kid, you know, because I didn't get a lot of encouragement. I didn't know all that. But we'll bring you more when we take a break and we're back.